thewellnesscouch.com, streaming wellness into your lives.
You're listening to A Quirky Journey, the healthy family podcast with your hosts Jo Whitten and Fuad Kassab. Hey everyone, welcome to A Quirky Journey. It's Jo here. So happy to have you with us on the show today. It's Friday. I'm looking forward to a sunny weekend. That's me being hopeful. We've had so much rain here and I see a little bit of sunshine poking out from behind the clouds today. So I've got my hopes up that it's going to be sunny this weekend. So I really wish we could send some rain down to those of you down south that need it. Thinking of you guys. It's a bit of a crazy weather at the moment with so dry down south and so wet up north, isn't it? So today we have my good friend Dani Valent on the show. I'm really excited to chat to her about cooking with kids and how to get your kids in the kitchen, learning about real food. This is something that is really important to me. I was raised by a mum who was always in the kitchen cooking and taught me to cook from a young age. My big sister taught me a lot as well. And it's funny how things work out. She moved away from where we live in our country area and has just recently, about a year ago, I guess, she moved back. And now she comes and cooks with me at home and works with me here. And I learned so much from her. She's such a great cook. So I did share one of her recipes on the blog recently, which was the super extra puffy Brazilian cheese puffs. They've been so popular. And, I'm just from a family that loves to cook. But that's something that you have to teach your kids. It's not something that just will happen unless you're cooking and getting them in the kitchen. So Dani and I have lots of tips for you in today's podcast to teach your kids cooking and get them excited about real food. So listen into that. So for those of you who don't know Dani, she's such an amazing person. I think I've known Dani for nearly 10 years now. We met via Twitter. There was a bunch of us on Twitter that used to chat about food and Thermomix cooking and all of that kind of thing. Yeah, I'm sure it would have been 9 or 10 years ago when we first all started chatting on Twitter. And Fuad was another one that was chatting with us. And so we all became friends. And Dani and I have never cooked at a workshop or a class together. So this is going to be so much fun. And our friend Fleur Sharp is also going to be cooking with us. So the three of us all bring something a little different to the table, and I think you're going to have a lot of fun if you get to come along. So we'll talk about that in the podcast as well. So Dani is a food writer. She started her career as a writer for Lonely Planet. So she'd go anywhere in the world writing about food all over the world. What a job, hey? I wish I had that job. And then, she started off writing as a journalist for Lonely Planet, and then she began writing about the food side of things all over the world and telling the stories of different cultures through food. And then she continued to write for newspapers and magazines and publications, reviewing restaurants. She does a lot of interviews with chefs. She does cooking classes and all sorts of things with chefs as well. And her passion is really connecting home cooks and eaters with great dishes and cuisines from all over the world. So if it's tasty, she wants to know about it, and she wants to share that with her readers and listeners. She's also from a family that cooks, so that's why she's got some great tips for us today. And I really love chatting to Dani about food because she's so passionate. It really comes out in her voice, and you're going to love her. If you haven't met her before, you're going to love her. Just look her up online, danivalent.com. She does have an online program, which we forgot to mention in the podcast, so I'll mention it for her here. And basically it's just a fun thing where you can see new videos all the time that she records with chefs and foodies all over Australia and all over the world, showing you how to cook different dishes in your Thermomix. So if you're a Thermomix owner, you need to get onto her site and have a look at that because you will learn so much. All right, so without further ado, I will begin the podcast with Dani, and I hope you guys enjoy it. And I look forward to seeing some of you in Brisbane. Welcome, Dani. It's so good to have you on the show again.
It is so good to be here. Always great to catch up.
It's been a while. I think the last time we chatted was, when I was in Melbourne. Thouad and I were in Melbourne, and I think we chatted together in person, didn't we, on the show?
We did.
Yeah, that was fun.
We met in a funny half-built food court. I knew it was going to get quiet.
We just had the honking cars down below, and that was about it.
Yeah, that's it.
Well, today I'm in Far North Queensland, and you're in Melbourne, and
yes.
we're getting ready to meet in Brisbane. Yay!
I know. That's so exciting. Yes.
Halfway.
It's going to be such a great event. So as people may have heard, we're teaming up with our good friend Fleur for a unprecedented one-off 3-way cooking class.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I'm so excited because
it's going to be so much fun.
It'll be so much fun. As much as we, you me and Fleur, we really connect on so many food levels. I think we also bring different things to the table. So it'll be great to share all that sort of stuff.
And I think that's a bit of a breath of fresh air for people because, it is even for me, because I love going to the health and wellness type things and talking about food for healing. But you know what? Food is just, for our family, it's just, for everyone, it's just something you do because you love each other and you want to make delicious food to share. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a diet or a thing. It's just enjoying good food together. And I think that's definitely something that all of us are passionate about is, making it it's something our families do.
Yeah, I think that's really
we
true.
Cook together.
Yeah. I think often people can feel a little bit boxed in by whether they've got, health needs around food or preferences or particular needs of their children or other people in their families. It sometimes can be, you can feel like you're just sort of in a certain box or a category. And I think one of the things that we love to do is to broaden that out.
Yes.
And to I guess, just really express the joy that's there in food, no matter what you're eating or what you're trying out to help your body through a tough patch or whatever it is, that there's still so much joy and expression and connection to be found. Around the table.
And so much variations in the things that you can do. And I think what I'm excited about with this seminar that we're doing is also showing that it doesn't have to be overwhelming and stressful, but it can be simple and beautiful and delicious. Like some of my favorite dishes are very simple with not a lot of ingredients. Do you agree?
Absolutely. I think the more I cook and, we're all busy, we're all just trying to get food on the table in amongst a million other things. I often feel like I just need one beautiful thing, one beautiful bit of produce to highlight or one great condiment that really lifts a simple meal. And that's a lot of, what the thread of what I'll be talking about in this seminar is just those really exciting building blocks of flavor that you've got at hand, got at your disposal. You're almost like your secret weapons that you've got to turn a meal from adequate to amazing. So I'm all about that stuff and making it simple, achievable, and not stressful. So you're looking forward to getting a meal on the table rather than doing it in this sort of harried whirl.
Yeah. Do you want to give them a little bit of an idea of what you'll be talking about?
Sure.
What you'll be demonstrating?
Yeah, so I've got this, one of my favourite secret weapons is this spice mix called Vaduvan. So
sounds good, just the name.
You know what, Joe? I love food that is fun to say as well. So I'm all about things that sound fun. So if you're at the class, not only will you be hearing me talk about Vaduvan, but I'm going to make you say Vaduvan. We'll all be chanting it by the end of the seminar.
Vaduvan.
That's it. It's got a ring to it. So it's a French spin on an Indian curry powder. And what I'll be doing is showing that there are all kinds of different ways that we can use it, where it ends up transforming meals. No, it certainly doesn't mean that things all taste the same. It's like the way that ingredients play off against each other is something I'm really excited about exploring and sharing. So it's about, you can use vin rouge in a baked good. You could use it in a soup. You can use it in a curry, other secret ways that I'll show you. And you'll come up with really simple but very exciting meals that don't you love that feeling, Jo, when you put something in front of people and they're like, oh
yes,
what is that?
Like that you can see their brain ticking, going,
yeah.
What's in that?
Yeah. What makes it taste that? What's that flavor? So I love creating those little like moments of surprise and delight. So that's what I'll be doing. But tell me a little bit about what you'll be doing.
Well, first of all, I just want to mention how yours sort of really flows into what Fleur's doing. She couldn't be on the podcast today because she's actually on her honeymoon. So
flying around, I know.
Yeah, all over the world. But it's amazing how, when you get those really good flavor combinations with spices and things, you can actually really cut down. My spice drawer is a disaster. So I'm looking forward to hearing from you and Fleur to help me to reduce the craziness in my spice drawer, because it's, you end up buying a new spice every 5 minutes or a new herb or whatever, and then do you use them all? They generally go off before you use them.
Yes,
so they have those old favourites and the favourite mixes that you can rely on and sort of cut down on the clutter. So Fleur's talking about working towards a capsule pantry, where you've heard of a capsule wardrobe, where you have just those basic outfits that you pick. My wardrobe is also a disaster, but anyway, that's a different subject. Let's not go there. But she's talking about, decluttering your pantry and your
so clever.
Yes, so clever. So I'm really looking forward to getting some insights from you guys.
Likewise. I know one of the things I love about cooking classes is that you always learn as the presenter, and I know that that'll be amplified in this class. So I'll learn so much.
So I'll be talking about reducing the stress in the kitchen as well, but in two ways. One way by simplifying your food, because that's one thing that we learnt when we went through major health issues, that we had to really pull back on our foods for a little while, and it actually taught me how to make amazing flavors with simple ingredients, and you realize how little you need. Like you said, if you've got a beautiful ingredient, a beautiful piece of produce, if you have really good quality, you don't need to do a lot to it. And you can make beautiful, delicious meals with very simple foods. So that's one way that I learned to reduce the stress in the kitchen, simplify my cooking, but also thinking about the ingredients in your food, ways to boost your mood and decrease the stress just by the ingredients. So there's certain foods which are all beautiful whole foods that we hopefully use every day that boost serotonin, that help to regulate moods. So I'm actually going to use those ingredients in my dishes, and also give you some ideas of foods that you should probably avoid if you're struggling with stress and anxiety, because they will boost inflammation, which makes this stress and anxiety worse.
It's so useful. And what I always do love about your approach is that you've got all these, the jobs that the food does in your body, but your dishes are always delicious.
Oh, good.
So,
thank you.
Yeah, it's just that, just really clever ways with whole foods. I love it. Cannot wait.
Thank you. So I did. I've practiced a few things to demonstrate, but I'm still trying to narrow it down, because I think we only have, we have a certain amount of time each, so I can't do 6 dishes as I used to. So it's like, oh my goodness, I've got to narrow this down to 3. I've got to simplify.
Yes, good practice. Yeah. I know, but I think what people can definitely expect is that it's going to be crammed full of inspiration, and we're going to pack in as much as we possibly can.
And I think we're all doing 3 recipes. Is that right?
Oh, really? I didn't know I had to keep it to 3. I'm going to try to
do as many as you can. Yeah, sneak in as many as you can. I think I always end up giving people so many variations of the one recipe anyway that it's like, a lot.
Yeah. There's going to be, it's a lot of value, that's for sure.
A lot of value. Another couple of little exciting tidbits about this seminar is that we've got some amazing giveaways and sponsors. And I just want to mention one of the main ones, which my listeners all know and love, which is Solid Techniques. So they are donating big prizes. So
that's
so cool.
I'm such a fan of Solid Techniques. I have a wok and a small pan. I just use them all the time. It's the most beautiful cookware.
Emma, our assistant, loves the wok the most. That's her favourite. We must get that one in the shop. I use the biggest skillet all the time, like pretty much every day. But yeah, I really love their products and their cookware. So we're really excited to have them sponsoring the seminar and providing beautiful giveaways. And there's going to be a lot of other sponsors, especially for the goodie bags. So we better not give away all the secrets, but
basically people are going to be walking out with gear as well as inspiration.
That's right.
Yes.
So come and bring a friend and come and have a fun day. So it's in the middle of the day, which also is kind of nice because it won't be a late night. It's on a Saturday.
Yeah, there'll be time to get to the shops and go and cook.
I know. It's so funny. How many times have you had people tell you that after your cooking class, they went to the late night grocery store and bought ingredients? I've had people tell me that.
I just love that. I love that people walking out of a class like they've just written their shopping list.
Yeah.
It's the best.
It's so good. And then next day they're already onto it. I love it. So hopefully we'll get lots of you guys there ready to cook. So the class is held in Brisbane at FareShare. Did you want to mention FareShare and what they do, Dani?
Yes, I would love to. So FareShare is one of Australia's biggest food charities, and I'm a very proud ambassador for FareShare. They've recently opened in Queensland. So their Brisbane kitchen is the Southern Hemisphere's largest charity kitchen.
Whoa.
It's really incredible. And
I can't wait to see it.
It's so great that we're holding a cooking class. It's the first cooking class that's ever been at FareShare, so it's so exciting to be there. So what FareShare does is they take rescued and donated food, and actually in Melbourne where I'm based, they also have a couple of farms, which is incredible. So they take rescued and donated food and they cook it into meals that are then distributed to agencies and therefore onto people who are doing it tough. So it's all really wholesome meals made from real ingredients that are cooked with love and then frozen and distributed to people that just have access to a really healthy, nourishing meal when they just don't have when they're just going through really hard times. Now the other incredible thing about FareShare is that this is done by a volunteer army of people.
Wow.
So it's volunteers that are working in the gardens, it's volunteers that are collecting the food, it's volunteers that are cooking the food under the supervision of chefs that are on staff. So it's an incredible.
How amazing is that?
It does good at every level. It's a really, really beautiful organisation to have a connection to, and it'll be anyone that comes along to the class will have an insight into that just by being in the facility. I wish we lived a bit closer. I wish we had one up here. Who knows? Like I know that the Brisbane kitchen is, they've got big ambitions. They're already supplying into northern New South Wales, so who knows how far they'll travel. Yeah, that's really awesome. It'll be good to have. And we'll be donating a bit of the profits also back to FareShare, so that'll be great. Yeah, super happy to do that. It's just, I love supporting them. That's awesome. Well, today we wanted to talk about, I'll just mention if you want to know more about the seminar and you would, the workshop or class or whatever you want to call it, I always get the words mixed up. You can go to Dani's website. Can you just give us the details, Dani? Probably the easiest way to do it is just to go to danivalent.com/shop. And then you'll see the seminar there. And there's also a dinner I'm doing in Brisbane a couple of days prior, so you can have a look at that as well. Quickly mention that too. So the class is on the Saturday. So danivalent.com/shop, and you'll see these two events at the top. So the class is on the Saturday. The Thursday prior, so 2 days before, I'm hosting one of my restaurant club dinners at a beautiful restaurant in Brisbane called Echo. And the theme there is great ways to cook restaurant quality food in your Thermomix, but also we're focusing on Australian Indigenous ingredients through that. So it's beautiful sort of modern bistro food there by Chef Philip Johnson, and he's threading through Indigenous ingredients. It's just going to be a really, really special dinner. So a sort of fine dining setting, lots of inspiration, lots of, practical opportunities, I suppose, to learn and learn and taste. I'm also bringing up, not in my suitcase, but I'm organising amazing Victorian wines to match with each course. So bringing a little bit of Victoria up to Queensland with the wines, and it's going to be beautiful. So
I really wish I could be there for the dinner. That sounds amazing.
It is going to be great. A few exciting days in Brisbane for me.
Woohoo. Okay, so moving on to the main topic that we want to talk about, Dani and I were discussing how it seems like it's more difficult for young people to learn to cook these days in a lot of families because their parents sort of haven't been raised. Maybe they weren't raised cooking from scratch. Maybe they are too busy to teach the kids to cook. But there's a lot of kids I've seen growing up not really learning to cook with real food. They maybe can chuck together a packet mix and make a pizza from a bought base or something like that. But I noticed on Instagram the other day, Tom Aikens, the chef, he's in the UK, isn't he?
Yeah.
I noticed him talking about over there, 89% of kids don't get offered hospitality at school. They're not getting taught the basics of cooking at school or at home. And I know when I was in the UK, everything was packets. Like you go to the grocery store. Did you notice that, Dani?
Yeah, there's a lot of, I suppose, those convenience foods.
Yeah, a lot of convenient foods. And I guess we're going towards that in Australia too. And it's just like, I understand that we need convenience now and then, but it's so important to teach your kids to cook. So do you want to talk about that with us a bit, Dani?
Yeah, I agree with everything you're saying, and it only takes one generation to lose those skills. If you don't see that done, if you don't see cooking done in front of you, it's like you simply don't learn it. I think a lot of the the flip side of that is that we do see a lot of cooking perhaps on TV, that whole so-called MasterChef effect. But I think because that's sort of at a different level, not at a daily level, I think that can also be a bit intimidating for people who haven't got those basic skills where they think
it becomes a spectator sport.
And it becomes something where, you're creating a croquembouche or something that's like an amazing special occasion food that you might do, once or twice in your life, but doesn't really relate to getting dinner on the table or sort of, nourishing yourself, body and soul. And look, I do notice that, we might have, I don't know, the kids' friends or whatever who come over and, I think we're eating something pretty normal and plain, but there's ingredients in there that they just haven't encountered. And, I'm not talking about, I don't know, I'm not talking about anything like esoteric. I'm talking about things like
bok choy.
Bok choy. And I suppose, one thing that is good is that I'd say almost all the kids will always try new things. And so that's sort of heartening, but you do think, what's happening in their homes, what are they seeing? And I understand, I'm busy, or I do have the luxury, I suppose, of working from home. So even when I'm having a very busy day, I can, get something cooking, or I can dash to the shops, or I can, I don't have a big garden, but I do have a few things in the garden going. And I think that's a really lovely way that kids can connect with produce, and the fact that things don't just come out of plastic packets, or they don't spring from the sky like pre-chopped and shredded and put in a box. They come from somewhere. It is something that is very concerning. There's this program, I know it's national, it's Stephanie Alexander's Kitchen Garden program, and it is national, but I think it's perhaps strongest in Victoria, where Stephanie is based and where the program started. But that's a program that brings kitchen gardens and cooking into schools, into primary schools.
Awesome.
And that's had an amazing effect, where it's often the first time these kids have held a knife. It's the first time that they've washed greens. It's the first time that they've, cooked something in a pan. And it's had, remarkable transformative effect.
Oh, that's so good. They've started the school gardens up here as well, and in my little country town. It's really good to see. I think it'd be good if we talked to the mums here and the parents and just gave them some ideas of how we got our kids in the kitchen while they were young, because I know there's a lot of people listening that go, I just don't even know where to begin, and I'm tired at the end of the day, and I just want them to get out of my way so I can quickly get dinner on the table, and so I shoo them out of the kitchen. And I totally understand that, because I have days, you know, when the kids were little, I did have days like that, but I tried to have days also where I said, come and help me. So maybe if we can both give a few tips, Dani?
Yeah, sure. I think one thing that I think is really important and useful is just to have fresh produce around. So, you know, it might be just as simple as a bowl of fruit, or you know, or getting kids to pull the tops off strawberries, or you know, to wash fruit. If you're cooking something, and absolutely I get that, you don't need people you know, crawling around under your feet while you've got hot things happening on the kitchen bench. But what about if they were sitting at the table, you know, picking parsley? So just simply picking the leaves off parsley or mint, or something that they could then use to garnish their food, or you know, you throw it into the dish. So I think it's just trying to think of those simple activities that don't require much supervision, and you know, do actually help, because I think kids love feeling like they're part of something, and they're contributing.
I started my kids really young washing the lettuce, and then I had one of those salad spinners, and they thought that was the best fun. I'd stick a tea towel on the floor and put the salad spinner on, and they would just spin and spin, and then they would then I'd put a big salad bowl next to them, because this is like when they were toddlers. I started really young. And I'd put a bowl next to them on the floor, and then they'd tear the lettuce into bits and put it into the bowl for me. And then we'd add all the other things for the salad. So they loved doing that. They loved making fruit salad, and a lot of fruit is quite soft to cut. So you could give them a knife that wasn't too sharp, and they could cut all the fruit up and put it into the bowl. And they thought that was the best fun ever. Yeah, so really simple things like that are a great way to start. Even washing potatoes for you and scrubbing them with a little brush.
Yeah, that's a great one. And actually, as you say, salad, I remember oh, excuse me.
You're right.
My daughter, my older daughter, who's now 15, is the chief salad dressing maker for the whole extended family, and that's because she just had the job of making dressing in a jar. So just a little bit of olive oil, a little bit of vinegar, maybe a squeeze of lemon juice, a little spoonful of mustard, you know, whatever it is. Sprinkle of salt and pepper, you know, in a jar. Put the lid on. Hopefully, most of the time, put the lid on. Shake it up. And, you know, just make a really simple emulsified vinaigrette that you can then taste, you know, adjust to taste, maybe pass it to me or to my mum to, you know, dip a finger in and taste. And then I guess you have that feeling not only of doing something helpful and creative, but it's also learning to taste.
Yes.
I think that's so important. When you're teaching kids to connect with food. And I know, Jodie, like you're so into eating seasonally, as am I. And I think one way that it can be, you know, a bit tricky and easy to go off track is if you're buying produce that's out of season and simply doesn't taste great.
Yeah.
You know, it's hard
coming from the other side of the world and picked green and
yeah. So it's hard to you know, it's hard to help kids fall in love with something that's not at its best. So, you know, a beautiful, juicy, you know, tomato at the end of summer is not the same as a winter tomato that's, you know, like a rock and bought from the supermarket. Yeah. Having said that, it's not, you know, I understand that sometimes people are going to be rushed and they might be buying produce that isn't to their preference. Then I suppose the next question is, what do you do with it to coax as much flavour from it as you can? So then, you know, if you've got a tomato that's not the greatest, maybe you're slow roasting it just to bring out that sweetness. So it's just, I suppose, having little tricks.
And teaching the kids those tricks is awesome.
Absolutely, yeah. So
one thing that we love to do with fruit, and especially like you're saying, when you get, you know, you're getting plums or something at the end of this, well, maybe it's the start of the season, whenever they're still a bit, they're a bit hard and they're not that awesome, or you're getting peaches or nectarines that are still a bit hard, and then you sort of bring them home and they don't ripen properly. We end up doing the roasted fruit thing. And so we just get a whole jumble of fruit and just halve them or quarter them and put them all on a pan, drizzle them with a little bit of honey and vanilla, and roast them for a good 20 to 30 minutes until they're all getting all caramelized and the flavor all comes out. And then, you can use just about anything with that. Serve that. And the kids know how to do it. It's all, and doesn't it just make the most beautiful dessert? That with some really good quality yogurt or cream, and if you want to, a sprinkle of nuts, and you're done.
It's so good. And it goes back to what you're saying right at the start, which is about, having one hero ingredient and just, making the most of it and letting it shine.
Using it for so many different things.
Yeah. It doesn't have to be complicated. It's just really, relating to a piece of produce and just thinking, what can I do with it to make it taste beautiful without too much fuss.
And that's one thing my mum taught me from really young is don't rely on a recipe so much as start with the ingredients. So she would say, well, what have we got? What can we use? And what can we make with this? Instead of going, here's a recipe, let's go to the grocery store and buy everything for this recipe. It kind of went the other way. And so we learned to be creative and say, in the garden at the moment, there's peas, there's this, there's that. How can we use them? And that's a really great way to teach your kids to cook, because then they're learning all the different things that you can do with an ingredient and ways to think creatively about it, and then working out from there a recipe or finding a recipe.
Yeah, it's principles of cooking, isn't it? And it's definitely those building blocks that you can then apply to all kinds of different things. Right. And I also think cooking like that is a great way to reduce food waste.
Yes.
Because you are working with what you've got rather than, plucking ideas out of the air and then, adding to the store of food you've got in the fridge or the pantry.
Yes.
I think it's that fridge blindness, I've heard it called, where it's just like you just can't see the meal from the food that's right in front of you. And I think things get pushed to the back of the fridge. They get forgotten about, and then in the end you chuck them out, and it's just pretty sad.
Yeah. I always, whenever I accidentally do that, find something in the back of the fridge that we didn't eat, I cringe because I think my mum's going to get me. She never wastes a thing. Like, she's always on top of it all. She uses every ingredient in her fridge. Sometimes her juices are a little odd. She's
hilarious.
She's been known to put sweet potato in her juice.
And there's always the
waste anything.
Stock paste hides all manner of ills.
Bolognese sauce.
Yeah, I mean, look, there is that, but sometimes you can think, people could come hear something like that and think, oh, your mum's just a magician, but actually it's a skill that comes with practice.
It really is.
It's the kind of thing that it's all in the doing, and you might not have it all nailed, but if you've got a couple of meals a week that you're creating out of the things that you happen to have, that half cabbage and that last bit of the broccoli and that bit of cheese, or whatever it is that's there. To be honest, I find those meals so satisfying.
Me too.
We go camping every summer, and we go for a couple of weeks, and we have a big trailer of food that we sort of replenish here and there. But my favourite meal often is the last meal, because it's that using up meal where it's almost like that mystery box idea where what can we do with tinned pineapple, raisins, a tiny bit of salami, and some old beans.
Okay, tell me, what did you make?
Well, I don't know. There's a lot of mysterious salads.
Yeah,
but I think you can make something delicious out of a random assortment of things, and it is pretty satisfying. And then I suppose all you need to do is give it a name.
That's right.
And it's real. It's a real dish.
And I have this
little surprise.
I have this little trick also when something doesn't turn out quite like I wanted it to. If it's sweet, you cover it in custard or chocolate, either one. And if it's savoury, generally white sauce or gravy will reclaim it.
I love it. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Oh, white sauce and cheese, This is the best thing you've ever made, Mum. Thanks.
Yeah, can we have that again?
No.
I'm not sure.
That was 5 different leftovers put together.
Yeah.
But that's the beauty of you know, when kids see you doing all that kind of stuff, they learn that it's okay to be creative. You will make mistakes, but you can generally reclaim them.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But it's okay. Experimenting is all part of learning to cook. And we used to make some amazing concoctions, my sister and I, on our little metho burner in the garage. And we always ate them.
Great.
So sometimes they were a little scary, but that's how we learned to cook.
You always ate them, even if it was only hiding the evidence.
Yeah, and the other thing is dousing them in tomato sauce if all else fails. That's another good one.
Yeah, yeah. So you need a few of those coverings for food, and you'll be fine.
We need a cooking class for all the things to, you know, when a meal goes wrong, what to do. That might be fun.
Yeah, kitchen failures and how to recover.
Yeah,
I think that would be a fun one
next time.
Next time, yes.
So good. Well, do you have any more great tips for parents with teaching kids to cook?
I think teaching them to wash up as they go
that's important.
is also really good. I do have a bit of dishwasher blindness going on in my house at times.
Same.
It's very frustrating. So I actually think I could have done better at teaching my kids to clean, certainly to clean as they go, as they cook, but also to do the washing up until it's actually all done.
And the counter is wiped. That's my pet peeve. It's like, guys, this counter is covered in water. What are you doing?
Yeah. I want to walk back in and not know that any cooking or eating happened here. I want it to, so I don't know. I guess obviously with little kids that's tricky, but sure, you know, there's lots that kids can do. Yeah.
They won't do it. And that's another thing. I think you've got to not have too high an expectation with young children in the kitchen. They're going to make a mess. It's going to take you 3 times as long, but in the end it will be worth it when they're teenagers to think that for you. Don't worry, my dog's barking through my podcasts all the time. It's all good.
So we've both got a dog called Peppy, and my Peppy is announcing to me that one of my kids is arriving home.
Oh, well, I should let you go so you can welcome home your child.
Okay. I'll get her in the kitchen. I'll get her cooking something.
Do that. Send us a photo. Okay. We really look forward to hanging out in Brisbane. So if any of you can come, we'd love to see you. And all the details will be on the show notes. So just scroll down and have a look there. Thank you so much, Dani.
Thanks for having me, Jo. I'll see you in a couple of weeks.
Okay, have a great weekend.
Bye.
Bye.
This has been a production of TheWellnessCouch.com. Check us out on Facebook and join in the conversation on Facebook.com/The Wellness Couch. Subscribe to each show on iTunes and check us out on Twitter. The Wellness Couch, streaming wellness into your lives. Whilst the Wellness Couch presenter endeavor to provide accurate and helpful information to their listeners, these podcasts cannot take into account individual circumstances and are not intended to be a substitute for health and medical advice from a qualified health professional. You should always seek the advice of a qualified health professional before acting on any of the information provided by any of the Wellness Couch podcasts.